I should have known something was wrong the moment I found the insurance policy hidden behind my wife's jewelry box. 42 years old, and I'd built Christian Industries from absolutely nothing after my father walked out when I was 12. While other kids were playing Nintendo, I was studying working planning my escape from the poverty that had defined my childhood. The Seattle skyline stretched before me through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my corner office that Tuesday afternoon. Steel gray clouds hung low over Elliott Bay, matching the color of my eyes and the growing suspicion in my gut. My secretary's voice crackled through the intercom like static electricity before a storm. "Sir, your wife called about dinner tonight. Jenny." 16 years of marriage, and suddenly she was scheduling our time together like a business appointment. The woman who used to wait up for me no matter how late I worked now treated our conversations like items on a checklist. I rubbed my temples, feeling the weight of building an empire settling into my bones like old arthritis. The early years had been different. Jenny had been genuinely impressed when I picked her up in my first Porsche, had gasped at the size of our Bellevue mansion, had actually seemed proud when Forbes mentioned me in their Entrepreneurs Under 30 feature. Back then, her eyes would light up when I walked through the door. Now they flickered toward her phone instead. My own phone buzzed against the mahogany desk. A text from Wesley Stratton, my business partner. "Emergency meeting tomorrow. Need to discuss the Henderson contract." Wesley. 6'2", charming smile that made women blush and men want to buy him drinks. 5 years ago, his struggling consulting firm had been circling the drain when I threw him a lifeline. 40% partnership in my expanded business empire. I'd seen potential where others saw failure, and Wesley had repaid that faith by becoming my most trusted advisor. Or so I'd thought. That evening, I pulled into our circular driveway to find every light in the house blazing like a Christmas display. The smell of garlic and wine drifted from the kitchen windows. But something felt off. Jenny never cooked elaborate meals on weeknights anymore. She stood at the granite island wearing a black dress that hugged her curves like it was painted on, too elegant for a quiet dinner at home, too perfect for a woman who claimed she was tired. "And you look beautiful," I said, kissing her cheek. Her skin felt cold as winter marble. "Thank you. How was your day?" The cheerfulness in her voice sounded rehearsed, like she'd practiced the line in front of our bathroom mirror. "Productive. Wesley mentioned some issue with the Henderson contract. Are you familiar with that client?" Something flickered behind her green eyes. A recognition she tried to hide. "No, should I be? Just curious. You seem to know more about my business lately than you used to." Casey bounced into the kitchen at that moment, our 14-year-old daughter with blonde hair exactly like her mother's. "Dad, can I sleep over at Melissa Connor's house this weekend? Her dad's a police officer." "She's new at school, really nice. Melissa Connor." My mind automatically filed the name away for future reference. Information was power, and I'd learned long ago to remember every detail that might matter later. During dinner, I watched Jenny the way I'd learned to watch hostile takeover attempts. She checked her phone 3 times, angling the screen away from my view each time. When she excused herself to use the bathroom, she took both her purse and her phone. After Casey went to bed, I sat in my study with a glass of 20-year-old Macallan, the amber liquid catching the lamplight like liquid gold. I'd built my empire on the principle that information was power. I knew the financial records of every competitor, the personal weaknesses of every rival. But I'd been blind in my own home, trusting where I should have been watching. The next morning, I called my brother Gerald in Portland. He worked as a private investigator, specializing in the kind of discreet inquiries that wealthy people needed when their carefully constructed lives began showing cracks. "I need you to look into something," I said without preamble. "Always straight to business with you, Marco. What is it?" "My wife," discreetly, "and Wesley Stratton." The pause on the other end of the line stretched like a tightrope. "Marco, are you sure you want to go down this road?" "Just do it, Gerald." 3 days later, my world exploded like a controlled demolition. Gerald sat across from me in my study like a doctor about to deliver a terminal diagnosis. The manila folder between us might as well have been a loaded gun. "You're not going to like this, Marco." I opened the folder with steady hands, though my chest felt like someone was tightening a vice around my ribs. Photos spilled across my desk like a deck of cards, revealing a losing hand. Jenny and Wesley kissing in his BMW. Jenny and Wesley entering a downtown apartment I didn't recognize. Jenny and Wesley walking hand in hand through Pike Place Market like teenagers in love. The timestamps showed this had been going on for 8 months. 8 months of lies over breakfast. 8 months of false smiles and manufactured excuses. 8 months while I'd been working 16-hour days to build something I thought we were sharing. "There's more," Gerald said quietly. "They've been planning something big." The blood in my veins turned to ice water. "Go on." I followed Wesley to a meeting with Tommy Travis. He's got connections to people who create new identities, false documents. The works. My fingers drummed against the mahogany desktop, the only outward sign of the rage building inside me like steam in a pressure cooker. "Continue." "I think they're planning to disappear together. Wesley's been slowly liquidating assets, converting them to cryptocurrency. Untraceable portable wealth." I stood and walked to my wall safe, pulling out several files. The papers had been moved slightly, so subtle most people wouldn't notice. But I noticed everything. I always had. "And Jenny?" Gerald hesitated like a man about to step on a landmine. "She's been photographing documents from your home office. Insurance policies, business contracts, offshore account information, everything worth stealing." The laugh that escaped my throat sounded hollow and bitter. "Let me guess. They think they can rob me blind and walk away to some tropical paradise." Marco, what are you thinking?" I poured myself another drink, watching the amber liquid swirl like liquid revenge. "I'm thinking they've made a fatal error in judgment. They think I'm just another successful businessman they can manipulate and rob. You can divorce her, cut Wesley out of the business, take them to court." "No." My voice cut through the air like a blade through silk. "They've declared war on me, Gerald, and in war the only acceptable outcome is total victory." Over the next week, I transformed from victim to hunter. Hidden cameras appeared in strategic locations throughout my house. A tech expert I'd used for corporate espionage began monitoring Jenny's phone and computer. Wesley found himself under 24-hour surveillance by professionals who could track a shadow through a thunderstorm. The picture that emerged made my original suspicions look naive. They weren't just planning to steal from me. They'd recruited help. Ivan Graham, my accountant for 6 years, was in on the conspiracy, helping Wesley hide assets and prepare for their grand escape. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Jenny would fake her own death in a car accident. The insurance payout would be enormous, and with me devastated by grief, Wesley would gradually transfer business assets offshore while playing the supportive friend. By the time anyone realized what had happened, the three of them would be living comfortably in a country with no extradition treaty. But they'd underestimated Marco Christian. They saw a successful businessman who'd gotten soft with age and wealth. They didn't see the 12-year-old boy who'd sworn that no one would ever abandon or betray him again. My plan began to form like a symphony in my mind. Not just to stop them, but to destroy them so completely that their betrayal would serve as a lesson to anyone else who might consider crossing me. The first person I contacted was Melissa Connor, a former military police officer turned private security consultant. Small, blonde, deceptively innocent-looking, perfect for what I had in mind. "I need someone who can play dead convincingly," I told her over coffee at a downtown cafe. Melissa raised an eyebrow. "That's an unusual request, Mr. Christian. I'm willing to pay you $50,000 for 1 day's work." "I'm listening." I explained a carefully edited version of the situation. My wife was planning to fake her death to steal my money, and I wanted to turn the tables. The medical examiner owed me several favors from when I'd helped fund the county morgue's equipment upgrades. "So you want me to pretend to be your wife's body?" Exactly. You'll be the victim of a car accident. The medical examiner will declare you dead. Meanwhile, my wife will be safely secured elsewhere, very much alive, watching her perfect plan crumble. And then what? Then she faces the consequences of her choices. The next phase required surgical precision. I had the house's surveillance equipment modified so I could control what was recorded and when. A secret room was constructed in the basement, soundproof and climate-controlled. Comfortable enough for an extended stay. Wesley played directly into my hands when he suggested accelerating their timeline. He'd learned I was planning to review all business partnerships at month's end. The car accident is set for Friday. Wesley told Jenny during a phone call I was monitoring. Tommy has everything arranged. You crash the car, slip away in the confusion. By the time anyone figures out the body isn't yours, we'll be long gone. But Tommy Travis was now working for me, having been offered double what Wesley was paying. Sometimes the best revenge was simply outbidding your enemies. Friday morning arrived gray and rainy, like the weather itself was mourning what was about to happen. Jenny kissed me goodbye with lips that felt like touching ice. "I'll see you tonight," she said, her last lie to my face. At 4 in the afternoon, my phone rang with the call I'd been expecting. "It's done," Tommy said. "Your wife's car is wrapped around a tree on Highway 18, but don't worry, she never touched the steering wheel." Instead, Jenny Christian was unconscious in the back of Tommy's van, having been drugged during what she thought was a final coordination meeting. She would wake up in my basement very much alive, but completely at my mercy. Meanwhile, Melissa Connor lay in the wreckage of Jenny's car, positioned to hide her face, waiting for police to arrive and declare Jenny Christian dead. I put on my most grief-stricken expression and headed home to play the devastated widower. The real performance was about to begin. The knock came just as I was setting the table for our anniversary dinner. I'd been preparing for this moment for weeks, rehearsing my reactions like an actor preparing for the role of his lifetime. Officer Bruce Jackson stood at my door, rain dripping from his uniform. Behind him, a younger officer waited by their patrol car like an understudy watching the lead performance. "Mr. Christian, I'm afraid I have some very difficult news. Your wife was in a fatal car accident an hour ago." My carefully crafted expression of shock and disbelief would have won me an Academy Award. My face went pale on command. My hand gripped the doorframe like a drowning man clutching driftwood. "No, that's impossible. She's upstairs asleep. She had a headache and went to lie down." "Sir, I understand this is difficult, but we found her vehicle wrapped around a tree on Highway 18. The medical examiner has confirmed. She's here." My voice carried the perfect note of desperate denial. "She's upstairs in our bedroom. I'll show you." I led the officers through my house with urgent, desperate steps. The performance was flawless. A man clinging to hope against impossible odds. "Otter Jenny," I called as we climbed the stairs. "Jenny, wake up. There are police officers here with some mistake about you being in an accident." The master bedroom door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open, letting the officers see the feminine form under the covers. Blonde hair spread across the pillow. Face turned away from the door. "See," my voice was thick with relief. "She's right here." But Officer Jackson's hand moved instinctively toward his weapon. He'd seen enough crime scenes to recognize something wrong. "Sir, step away from the bed." As Jackson approached with his gun drawn, his hand found cold, waxy skin. It was a mannequin, life-sized and incredibly realistic, dressed in Jenny's clothes and wearing her jewelry. "Mr. Christian, I need you to tell me where your wife really is." My performance shifted again. Now I was the confused, grieving husband who couldn't understand what was happening. "I don't understand. She was here when I went downstairs. Someone must have taken her." 30 feet below where we stood, Jenny Christian was waking up in my specially prepared room. The walls were soundproof, the door was steel, and there was no way out except through me. She would wake up to find herself in a comfortable but inescapable prison with monitors showing her exactly what was happening upstairs. Watching her husband give the performance of a lifetime while her lover waited for news of her death. The trap was sprung. Now the real game could begin. Jenny's consciousness returned slowly, like swimming up through dark water. As her vision cleared, she found herself in a room she'd never seen before. Cream-colored walls carpeting even a small kitchenette. It looked almost like a luxury hotel suite except for the reinforced steel door and complete absence of windows. A large flat-screen television flickered to life, showing my face, but not the Marco she knew. This Marco looked haggard, desperate, pleading with police officers. If she was here, my voice came through the speakers. Someone must have taken her. Through the intercom, I spoke directly to her for the first time since her imprisonment began. "Hello, darling. I trust you're feeling better. You were unconscious for quite a while." "Marco, what have you done?" "I've given you exactly what you wanted, Jenny. You wanted to disappear, to leave your old life behind. Consider this your fresh start." On the screen, she watched Wesley's BMW pull into our driveway. He got out, his face a mask of concern and grief, ready to play the supportive business partner, consoling his friend's loss. "Wesley's here," I continued. "He's come to comfort me in my time of grief. The same man who's been sleeping with my wife has come to offer his condolences." She watched in horror as Wesley embraced me at the front door, both of us playing our roles perfectly. Wesley had no idea his lover was very much alive and watching from her underground prison. "Did you really think you could steal 16 years of my life and just walk away?" I asked through the intercom. "Did you think I'd never find out about the offshore accounts, the false identities, the insurance fraud?" Over the next 2 hours, Jenny watched a parade of people come to offer condolences. Neighbors, business associates, even Casey's friends' parents. Everyone believed Jenny Christian was dead, and they all witnessed my grief-stricken performance. "Our daughter," Jenny said. "You're letting her think I'm dead. Our daughter will be fine. She'll inherit everything that would have been yours, plus the insurance money. She'll never know her mother was a cheating thief." As the police and visitors finally left, I closed the front door and dropped my grief-stricken mask for the first time all day. The smile that spread across my face was cold and predatory. "The phase 1 complete," I said, looking directly into the camera. "Now the real fun begins." 3 days after Jenny's supposed death, Wesley sat in his downtown office staring at his encrypted phone. No messages from Jenny. No confirmation she'd reached safety. According to their plan, she should have contacted him by now. When I appeared in his doorway, looking haggard and hollow-eyed, Wesley stood quickly with practiced sympathy. "Marco, you shouldn't be here. You should be home resting." "I can't just sit in that house," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "Everything reminds me of her." What Wesley didn't know was that I'd been monitoring his communications for weeks. Every encrypted message, every phone call, every meeting with co-conspirators, I'd seen it all. That afternoon, Ivan Graham received an unexpected visit from Agent Stephanie Hogan investigating financial irregularities at several Seattle businesses. "We've received information suggesting several business accounts have been manipulated," she told Ivan, sliding a folder across his desk. "Money moving between accounts, cryptocurrency purchases, offshore transfers. All traced back to companies you manage." Ivan's face went pale as old newspaper. "This is impossible. I would never—" "The evidence says otherwise. You can cooperate and help us understand who else is involved, or you can become the fall guy for the entire operation." What Ivan didn't know was that Stephanie Hogan was another of my hired actors, and the evidence was carefully constructed to look authentic while proving nothing illegal on my part. But the psychological pressure worked perfectly. Within an hour, Ivan was confessing everything, implicating Wesley as the mastermind behind the embezzlement scheme. In her prison, Jenny watched security footage of Ivan's breakdown with growing horror. "You're framing them," she said. "I'm revealing their true nature," I corrected. "Ivan was stealing from me. Wesley was planning to steal millions. I'm simply accelerating the timeline." That evening, Wesley received Ivan's panicked call. "They know everything. The feds have evidence about the accounts, the money transfers. I think someone tipped them off." Wesley's blood turned to ice water. Every moment he spent worrying about the investigation was a moment he wasn't trying to contact Jenny or wondering why their perfect plan had gone silent. He's abandoning you. I observed as Jenny watched Wesley pace his apartment like a caged animal. The moment he thinks he might get caught, thoughts of rescuing you disappear entirely. As if to prove my point, Wesley's next call was to Tommy Travis, demanding a new identity for himself, wanting to disappear immediately. "The man you threw away 16 years of marriage for," I said softly. 1 week after Jenny's supposed death, Wesley made his fatal mistake. Desperate to escape what he believed was a federal investigation, he accessed the hidden accounts containing stolen money. The moment Wesley began transferring funds to his escape account in the Cayman Islands, I struck with real police carrying genuine warrants. Jenny watched through security monitors as Officer Jackson led the team that arrested Wesley in his pajamas. "Wesley Stratton, you're under arrest for embezzlement, wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit theft." The beautiful part was that in trying to escape with stolen money, Wesley proved he was guilty of everything I was accusing him of. No jury would believe his claims of innocence. Over the following days, Jenny was forced to watch as life continued without her. Casey returned to school where everyone treated her with sympathy. I played the devoted single father, taking time off work to care for my grieving daughter. Wesley's arrest made headlines: "Local business partner arrested in massive embezzlement scheme." What the article didn't mention was that much of the stolen money had actually been moved by me, creating a paper trail that led directly to Wesley's accounts. "You framed him," Jenny said during one of our daily conversations. "I exposed him," I corrected. "Wesley was stealing from me. The cryptocurrency accounts were real. I simply enhanced the evidence." "What about Ivan?" "Ivan's cooperating fully with authorities. 5 years in minimum security instead of 20 in federal prison. He's quite grateful." Jenny realized I had orchestrated everything with surgical precision. Wesley would go to prison for decades. Ivan would serve a manageable sentence. And I would emerge as the victim who'd lost both his wife and business partner to their treacherous scheme. "And then what about me? You are the tragic victim whose death exposed their crimes. Jenny Christian is dead. Her body was buried yesterday in a beautiful ceremony." Casey threw a rose on the casket. Jenny stared at the monitor in shock. She'd missed her own funeral while sitting in a basement room 20 feet away. You get to choose," I continued. "I can make Jenny Christian's death permanent, or you can live as someone else entirely. New identity, new life, new everything. But if you choose to live, you do so knowing that returning to your old life means destroying Casey's future and revealing that her beloved mother was a criminal who faked her own death." 2 weeks after her supposed death, Jenny made her decision. She chose exile, but with conditions. Regular updates on Casey, confirmation that our daughter would never learn the truth about her mother. "She believes you died instantly in the accident," I promised. "That you didn't suffer, that you loved her more than anything, and your last words were about how proud you were of her." 3 days later, Jenny found herself in Gerald's pickup truck driving through Montana countryside toward her new life as Bethany Hickman. A small apartment above a bookstore in a town so remote it barely appeared on maps. 6 months later, I stood in my Seattle office looking out at a city that no longer held painful memories. Wesley was serving 35 years. Ivan had disappeared into witness protection. Casey was thriving as a confident 15-year-old getting straight A's. Christian Industries was more profitable than ever. My net worth had actually increased since my wife's death. In Montana, Bethany Hickman worked at Rocky Mountain Hardware and lived in her small apartment. Every month she received unmarked envelopes containing photos of Casey at school, at home, with friends. Watching her daughter grow up through carefully cropped photographs. Casey graduated high school as valedictorian and was accepted to Stanford with a full scholarship. She decided to study business, wanting to eventually join my company. "I want to build on what you and Mom started," she told me during her graduation party. She'd be incredibly proud. I said and meant it. 5 years after Jenny Christian's death, I stood at Casey's college graduation watching my daughter accept her business degree with honors. In the audience, I noticed a woman with short, dark hair watching from the back row wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap. Bethany Hickman had broken the rules one last time, traveling across the country to see her daughter graduate. For just a moment, our eyes met across the crowded auditorium. I could have had her arrested, could have exposed everything and destroyed Casey's image of her mother forever. Instead, I simply nodded once in acknowledgement that this moment belonged to both of us. Later that evening, I received a single text message from an unknown number: "Thank you." I deleted it immediately and never heard from Bethany Hickman again. Marco Christian had won completely, but I'd also learned that even perfect revenge could contain moments of imperfect mercy. The war was over. The victory was total. And somewhere in Montana, a woman who had once been my wife was learning to live with the consequences of betraying the one man who never forgave and never forgot. But Casey would never know any of this. She would inherit everything, believing her parents had loved each other and that her mother had died, believing in her daughter's potential. In the end, that was the only victory that truly mattered.